Hey, what is going on? It is 12 noon on Wednesday, which means it's time for this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. My name is John Christman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time to help you understand the technical side of the real estate industry. And if you've been on the fence about starting a real estate career or what you want to do in 2021 with your real estate career, if you already have one, well, this is the show that's for you, because what we're going to be talking about today is setting some goals for 2021. Now, the last couple episodes we've done have been about goal planning, goal setting, business planning. So today I want to really start to kind of bring some of this together so that way you can start to develop some actionable steps of things it is that you're going to be doing in 2021 to achieve your real estate goals. And so what we're going to be talking about today is just some things to help make sure that you set yourself up for success in actually achieving these goals, not just talking about them and never actually doing them. I'm sure we've all been guilty, myself included, of talking about things and never actually putting the necessary action forward to make them come into fruition. So don't let that happen with your real estate business. What we're going to be talking about today is a plan to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I'm John Cursimo. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
You are watching Ask the Instructor. Absorb the knowledge. Become the expert.
Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. My name is John Cursman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. If you're new, we're here every Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern Time. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you get notifications whenever it is that we go live. But let's just dive right into today's topic, and that is 2021 real estate goals. Now, what is it that you want to set for your goals? Well, the one most people are going to set is an income goal. Okay, cool. That's a great place to start. But that's one number. You want to understand the full picture. And so if you go back and you've seen our episodes on business planning, or we just did one last week on calculating how many homes it is that you need to sell, it's really just figuring out how much you make per sale and taking your income and dividing it by how much you make per sale to figure out how many transactions you need to do. Because how do you equate people to income? Well, it's absolutely possible, but there's a few steps in between. But it's a lot easier to equate a person to a transaction, because one person can equal one transaction. That's not always the case. But when you sell somebody a property, that one person is one transaction, whereas the income that you generate, well, that depends on what the price of the home is, what the commission rate is, and a whole lot of other factors. And so if you get hung up on how you could almost make any numbers come up with the income that you need to, you're always going to need a certain amount of transactions. And what I would also say for this is no one just sells their average price home. So let's say, for example, you're going after an income goal of $100,000. You do need to know an average sale price to be able to hit that. Let's say your average sale price, let's just say your average commission, to keep things simple. If you want to go from taking the sale price into commission, make sure you go back and rewatch that business planning episode we did last week. But let's say your average commission that you're walking away out of pocket, we'll keep the numbers easy, is $10,000. Now, if that's basically all you've got to figure there, okay, I need to get $100,000 in income. My average commission that I make per transaction is $10,000, so therefore I need 10 transactions. Really easy. Now, your numbers for your actual real estate business and your actual goals might not be this simple, but the way you do the math is exactly the same. What you're doing is you're taking your income and you're dividing it by your average commission, and that's going to equal the transactions that you need. But that's assuming that you're going to make $10,000 per house. let's say, because in order to make about $10,000, if you don't have a commission split with your broker, if you're on 100% split, that means you have to sell a $333,000 home at 3% commission. Well, let's say you've got a property that isn't $333,000 that you don't have a 3% commission on. Now, how does that fit into this model here? So that's where it benefits you to also create some sort of range. Let's say your average commission, and this is especially helpful if you're new to real estate, because if you're brand new and you haven't sold any real estate yet, you might not know what your exact average commission may be, of how much exactly you make every time you sell a property. Because you have to have some transactions to actually come up with that average, otherwise it's just a guess. So if we're going to be guessing, let's guess a range. Let's say that we make between, maybe on the low end, $5,000 up to $10,000. Now, can you make more than that? Absolutely, just like you could make less than that. It all depends on what the value of the property is. If you go and sell a $100,000 property, a 3% commission on that's only $3,000. Now, a $100,000 property, yes, there's many of them out there, but at least in Hillsborough County, the average price is around a little over $300,000. So where will you be in this? It depends on your market, but this is where it benefits you to do a range, because what we could figure out now is we're going to do the math for both of these numbers. We're going to say, okay, let's say I do sell on more of the expensive side. If I sell more expensive homes, how many homes do I need to sell? Well, if my commission is coming in around $10,000, and again, that's either from a higher sale price or a higher commission rate that you charge. So if you make more money per sale, let's say $10,000 at the top end of the scale for your example, that's again 10 homes, 10 transactions you need to do. But let's say you only make $5,000. And we'll say on the low end, because how much you make per transaction, it's always going to be falling in this range here. It might be higher, it might be lower. It depends. Not every transaction is going to be the same. It's not going to be for the same price. You're not going to earn the same commission. There's all kinds of differences there. So if we take that $100,000 and we divide it by 5,000, you're going to get 20. Basically meaning that if you want to make $100,000 and you make $10,000 per sale, you only need to sell 10 homes. But if you only make $5,000 per sale, you need to sell 20 homes. Now notice how much more real these numbers are becoming here. These numbers are starting to become more real because we're putting more thought into them. We're thinking about them more. We're working out the scenarios. So that way we're not surprised when we don't hit our goal, because we didn't do the math on, what if I sell houses less than 10,000? If you say, all I got to do is sell 10 houses, but let's say your houses end up clocking around 5,000. If you sell 10 houses, but you only make 5,000 per property, per sale, you're only going to end up with $50,000, not your $100,000 goal. So you figuring this out in advance is going to help you be better prepared when you start to see how the cards land, how they fall, where the chips fall. I'm botching the expression for that. But when you start to see what reality actually is and what really is happening, not just your projections that you made with doing these preliminary numbers, that's when you're going to notice that, okay, it's going to be a little bit more here, a little bit more there, and you could course correct, because we'll continue along with these two paths here depending on how much money it is that we may make. Because again, if we make less money per transaction, that means we need to do more transactions. So again, we're looking somewhere between 10 and 20 transactions that we want to get done. And if we want to make sure that we hit our goals, we probably want to be more towards 20 transactions. Worst case scenario, you make more than $100,000. Not such a bad problem to have. Not such a bad thing if you're putting in the work. Because if you take the actions, you start to build momentum. That momentum is important, and that's why you want to try to push yourself towards this side. Now, that takes more action. It's going to take more effort, especially as we go down the funnel here, as we go further down this list here. Because our next step in this process, after we talk about transactions, that's actual closings. Let's say, how many contracts? Now not every contract is going to close. You're going to have some deals fall through. It's not a question of how many deals are going to fall through. It's not a question of if deals are going to fall through. It's a question of how many are going to fall through. That is the question. That's why that one just jumped in my head. Because that is the question. How many deals are going to fall through? They fall through for a variety of reasons. They're not all your fault. Sometimes they may be your fault, and those are the ones that sting the most. But then other times, it's not your fault. It's things that are outside of your control. So what you've got to do when you have things occur that are outside of your control is focus on the things that are within your control. And one of those things that are within your control is getting more transactions. So if you've got the risk of a transaction falling through, a contract falling through, and you not getting paid because the deal fell through, because if that deal never closes, we don't get paid. We only get paid when the transaction closes. So if we want to make sure we get to that closing, we're going to do everything we can to make sure we hold that deal together. But again, sometimes things are going to be outside of our control. And so therefore we have to focus on what is within our control. And so maybe if some of our deals are going to fall through, well, let's focus on getting a few extra deals. Now, on the low end here, let's say that out of these 10 deals, we only needed like 15. We'll say 15 contracts, which is a third of them falling through, which you might say, John, that sounds like a lot. Are really 1/3 of my contracts going to fall through? To where if I have 15 contracts, I'll only have 10 closings? Maybe. That may be the case. Or it could be even more than that. Maybe half of your contracts fall through. So if half your contracts fall through, and let's say, again, going worst case scenario here, you're on this lower dollar amount here. Okay, wow, if half of them are falling through, now we're looking at maybe as low as 15 contracts, but maybe as many as 40. And okay, so let's take another step here. 40 contracts, that might sound like maybe a taller order, but doing this math also here, this will help you realize also where you might want to focus your marketing efforts. Because if you're only making $5,000 per transaction, that takes twice the amount of work as making $10,000. And on top of that, that's again where here we just went with the different closing ratios. Here we're saying basically that 33% of our deals are going to fall off. And over here we're saying, again, to be the high end of our scale of where we really need to hustle to make this happen, if we have more deals fall through, we could need as many as 40. Again, worst case scenario here for making the lowest dollar amount and we have our highest predicted possible amount of deals falling through, where half of our deals fall through. Now, in reality, you'll probably end up, if you do have accurate estimations, you'll probably end up somewhere in the middle. Unless you're lazy, then you might end up somewhere around there, or if you're really a go-getter, you might end up even surpassing this number right here. But doing this math so you understand your business. You understand if I don't have contracts, well, that's not going to result in any transactions. Or if a contract falls through, I'm going to need another one to make up for that so I could still hit my income goal. But now, taking this one step further, what about appointments? How many appointments might we need to get to 15 contracts, again, to go on the low end of this here? Well, we'll start with the high end. How about 40? How about for these 40 contracts? Worst case scenario, maybe how many appointments that we need to do. Maybe not worst case scenario, because we could really get bogged down here for a worst case scenario across the board of this here. But realistically, how many appointments we might need to have before we end up having a contract, that's going to also depend on whether you're working with buyers or sellers. So if you've taken our post-licensing class, you might know already, or remember hopefully, how we teach to do the business planning and splitting it up for your business, your buyer side of your business, as well as the seller side of your business. Because a buyer typically is going to require more appointments versus a seller. A seller, you might need 1, 2, maybe 3 appointments. We'll say over here on this end, the low end, 3 appointments. So what would that equate to? That equates to just 45 appointments. Now, are you going to make $100,000 off of 45 appointments? Possibly. But again, this is really trying to get everything right. That you're at the higher end of your spectrum here of how much you make. And look, in Hillsborough County, this is actually average. This really isn't even higher level of the spectrum. This is average for, again, a $333,000 home, which is right about average price in Hillsborough County at a 3% commission. That's a $10,000 commission before your commission split with your broker. So in your market, if you're in Tampa, this already might be shifted a little bit higher than this because coming across these lower priced homes are more few and far between as prices continue to rise. But again, every market is different. Every real estate business is different. Maybe you're not interested at all at working with luxury homes and you'd prefer to work with investors or first-time home buyers or whatever the reason may be that you're dealing more in lower price points. Lower price points typically have a lot more volume to them as well. So if you're trying to hit these higher numbers of contracts, that's going to be easier to do in a lower price property or in a lower price bracket because there's a lot more properties and a lot more buyers who could afford lower price properties. Versus when you start to talk about, if that's part of your plan, more luxury properties and getting a bigger commission than this, because there's a lot bigger commissions to be had. If we talk about a $1 million home, a 3% commission on a $1 million home is $30,000 in one transaction. Now, are $1 million homes bought and sold every day? Yes, but then now defining where every day is, does it get sold every day in Tampa? I don't think we'll have to pull the stats on how often a home over $1 million gets sold in Hillsborough County. I'd be curious here. I don't think it happens every day, often, but maybe not every single day. And again, my point is that every market is different, and until you really look at the numbers, you don't really know. And again, you might not have any interest going into higher, more luxury homes. You might want to focus more on, again, first-time home buyers or investors or whatever the case may be. The point is that you've ran these numbers for how you want to run your business so you know what you need to do to achieve the goals in your business. I'm not here to tell you what your business should be. That's for you to decide. I'm just here to help you understand how you get there. Once you've defined what it is that you want your business to be, how do we get there? What are the numbers? How do we break that down? So let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about the appointments, and again, on the higher end, maybe what you might be looking at to get these number of appointments, and then breaking these down, not just from annual numbers, but into a weekly and even a daily basis, so you know every single day what it is that you need to do to ultimately hit your goals for the year for your real estate business. So stick with us. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
The most powerful tool to study for your real estate exam is the Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate. We've used our years of experience in preparing students for the Florida real estate exam to bring you the most powerful exam study tool available. In the Question Simulator, you'll be able to go directly to a particular unit so you can focus on the sections where you need the most practice. We have also included the percentages of each unit so you know which units are the most important for your real estate exam. Every question will immediately give you detailed feedback, which is almost always more important than the question or the answer themselves. After completing all the questions in a particular unit, you can go through question by question and review any that you've gotten wrong. You could also print out a report at the end of each quiz. The Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate is 100% mobile compatible, so you can practice with test questions anywhere you have your phone with you. Enroll now at questionsimulator.com and get ready to pass your exam.
And welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. My name is John Chrismo, and this show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here every Wednesday. If you're not yet subscribed, make sure you hit that bell icon so you get notifications whenever it is that we have new content to help you grow your real estate business. Because that's what we're all about here, helping you achieve the goals and dreams of your real estate business. And speaking of goals, let's get back into our 2021 goals and figuring out, again, for your business plan of what you're trying to accomplish in real estate next year. It starts with figuring out, okay, I want to make this much money. And this number shouldn't just be a number that you pull out of your head somewhere. It should be a number that has meaning to it. That you've said, okay, I want to achieve this, I want to move into a bigger house, I want to put my kids in a good school, I want to set aside this much money in savings, I want to set this much aside for investing in real estate, I want to reinvest this much into my business. The more specific you make your goals, the more real they become. And the more real they become, the more likely you're going to actually make them real and bring them into reality and actually take the actions that you need to take to get them done, because you know the instructions, you know what those actions are. So again, on the appointment side of things, let's say that it's taking you more appointments, maybe as many as, let's say, we'll say 300 appointments. If we're really gonna go out there, if you're just really, maybe your appointments are short, maybe you're working on your appointment skills or the skills that you have on appointments, maybe you keep falling on your face and getting back up, but even if this is you here, if you keep putting in the work, if you keep clocking in every day, and I say that figuratively because you're not clocking in real estate because you're your own boss, so unless you make yourself clock in, then you just show up. If you show up every day and do what you need to do, because in reality, this comes down to about one appointment a day. And if you're not meeting with one client a day, then, and this isn't even every day, there's, 365 days in a year. So you could have 65 days without meeting with a client, as long as you meet with a client, just one client and one appointment every other day other than those 65 days. Can you do that? Absolutely. Do you want to have more days off? Okay, we'll do more than one appointment in one day. You should really be doing, on a good day, 3, 4, maybe even 5 appointments if you're really trying to knock them out, and maybe on a good Saturday or Sunday or across a weekend or something along those lines. Because appointments are what translate to this income. If you don't have appointments, you will not have a contract. If you don't have a contract, you will not have a closing. If you don't have a closing, you don't get paid. So if you want to get paid, you need closings, you need contracts, you need appointments. How many of them? It depends on a lot of factors. If you're more of a people person, you'll be over more on this side here. If maybe you're not a people person, well, what are your other strengths then? Well, usually maybe more introverted people, they're maybe really good at keeping track and being diligent and being persistent. That's a generalization, but just because you're not a people person doesn't mean you wouldn't be good at real estate. Now, if you're a people person, yes, that's going to help you really connect with a lot more people quicker, but here's the other thing with people. I'm a people to a certain extent. We're often all over the place and things slip through the cracks. So even though we might have more contacts, we might have more things falling through. Whereas if maybe we're not just trying to be friends with everyone, but we're focusing on certain clients because maybe we're more introverted or whatever it is you want to call it, maybe you have less clients that you're working with, but you give better care and attention and diligence and persistence to those clients, so you have less deals fall through. Again, real estate can be anything it is that you want, but you have to first figure it out. You have to figure out what it is that you want out of it. You've got to do this math. And you've got to understand how your appointments translate to contracts, how your contracts translate to closings, and how those closings translate to your actual payday and what you're doing with that money. The better it is that you have figured this out, the easier it is it's going to be to move clients through your business process, because you understand the process. And you're going to have some appointments that don't result in a contract. That's probably the biggest mistake I see new agents make. So if you're new, pay close attention here. The biggest mistake that new agents make is relying on one of anything, specifically one client, because one client does not equate always to one contract and one transaction. Notice how when we started here at the beginning, when we started talking about this number of transactions, I said something like, oh, we could make more sense of this. We could figure this out. 10 transactions, 10 people. We need at least 10 people to have 10 transactions. That's an accurate statement, but emphasis on the at least, because usually 10 people don't yield 10 transactions. And the mistake most new agents make is thinking this one client, this one deal is going to result in that one sale. Doing this math here is the best thing that you could do to better understand that one person does not always result in one sale. And that's okay, because that's when you start to get pushy and aggressive and where people don't like you, when you're so focused on turning that one person into that one deal. And it just frustrates you because you really don't have control over that. No matter how much you beg, bargain, and deal and plead with somebody, they might still not want to buy or sell. So it's not about turning every person into a deal. It's about developing relationships and being there when they actually need our business. So just because they don't do business with you today doesn't mean they won't do business with you tomorrow, but they won't do business with you tomorrow if they forgot who you are. So make sure they don't forget about who you are. So don't be disappointed when they're not ready, when it's not their time yet. You could wait. There's other people out there that are ready. And don't try to force it when they're not ready. Now, there is a certain extent to helping them understand that they can do it if they think they can't do it. But if they do, once you've done that and they're just truly not quite ready to make that first move yet, that's okay. We'll wait it out a little bit, and you're going to have other clients that you're able to assist at the same time that you could focus on them. Well, this person is on the back burner getting ready to buy or sell. We're not going to sit there and wait for them. We've got other clients we should be working with. And if you don't have other clients you should be working with, you need to go out and find other clients that you should be working with. And this business planning exercise, again, this is what is designed to help you understand that, hey, it's okay if somebody doesn't fall through. That's all part of the plan. You know, if we're really on this side of it over here, not every appointment's going to result in a contract. And that becomes more obvious, especially if you think of buyers, because like I said, on the buyer side, you're more likely to need more appointments because they're probably going to want to look at least a couple of homes before they make a decision. So if you've got 300 appointments, but you only end up with 40 contracts, now 40 contracts, that's pretty hefty. Now, even when we're predicting 50% of them to fall through, that still results in 20 transactions, which even if they're only $5,000 deals, which that's like a $150,000 property at a 3% commission for $5,000, to put some context behind that, that would still get us to the $100,000. But what if we had 20 deals that ended up being $10,000? Well, that's $200,000. What if we have 40 contracts, but they actually all close? Now that's don't count on that, don't expect that, but that's a possibility that could happen here. You do want to be conservative with these numbers to give yourself some buffer in case you fall short, because you probably will fall short. That's the reality of this here. And if you're not falling short of your goals, maybe stretch your goals a little bit farther here. There should be probably at least at some point down here where you fall at least a little bit short. Because if you're not, well, I would say that, yeah, you got some room to expand yourself a little bit further if you're not falling short of any of these goals. But usually the problem isn't falling short of the goals. Usually the problem is actually hitting those goals in the first place. And that's what also setting larger, more lofty goals will help you do, is it'll get you a little bit more excited about going after these goals here. If $100,000 doesn't get you excited, don't make that your goal. Do the math for $200,000. Do what it is that is actually going to get you excited to go out there and go have 300 appointments. Now, this obviously is maybe if you're trying to work in real estate more along a full-time type of basis here. But part-time, could you at least do 45 appointments? Yeah. So could you make $100,000 working part-time? That's more of a stretch. But I'm not going to say it's impossible, because if you could dial this in over here more on this side here where you only need 45 appointments, that's less than one appointment a week across a year. So if all you need is 45 appointments, you might be able to hit this goal across just one appointment a week, which it sounds ridiculous, but again, the higher the commission is, the more likely that's going to happen. The more transactions you have, the more likely that's going to happen. The less contracts you have fall through, the more likely that's going to happen. Even with this here, if you have 15 contracts, let's say all 15 of these actually go through, and it's at $10,000, well then that's $150,000 you end up with there. And that's okay. Send your complaints in. Write us if you're complaining about overachieving your goals, but I'm sure that's again not what you're worried about. You want to overachieve. You want to surpass these goals. And that's the beauty of, again, coming up with these ranges here, because when your business starts to come up short, you know what the gas looks like. Imagine if you're driving a car and you don't know where the gas pedal is. How does your car go if you don't know where the gas is? How does your business go if you don't know where the gas is? If you don't know where the accelerator is in your business, how does your business move forward? This is your accelerator. Get more contracts, get more appointments. And really this comes down to, this is really what you want to focus on, really even before day one, Who in your sphere of influence before you're even licensed, who in your sphere of influence might need your real estate services once you are actually licensed. Now, granted, you can't do anything until you're actually licensed. You can't even advertise real estate services until you're actually licensed. But you could let them know that, hey, I'm actually in training right now to get my real estate license. If you'd be willing to be my first client, I'd give you a great deal and make sure I give you all the time and attention in the world. Maybe that works. Maybe you've got to clean it up and refine it. Maybe it depends on the relationship you have, but new agents do that every single day. So getting back to leads now, how many leads do you need? I mean, really, if we're idealistic, as few as 45. But let's be more realistic than idealistic. Let's say 100. And no, let's say 150. Because I don't want to mislead you, and in reality, you might need more leads than this. Again, it depends on your business, because you might be really good at finding hot leads. If you're subscribing to something like Zillow or Realtor.com, yes, those leads typically are more expensive, but those leads are more likely to result in an appointment that results in a contract. Maybe you got a really good ratio of getting appointments with your leads here. Maybe you need as few as, let's say 100 appointments. That'd be great. It'd be great if we only needed 45 appointments. But let's go on the other end of this here. Let's say that only a third of our leads result in an appointment. If we're getting leads from less urgent sources, maybe we're doing community events or things like that where we're meeting people, but these people don't actively need real estate services right now, this number might be a lot fewer of the leads that come in that actually result in an appointment. So we might need more of those leads, so we end up with those more appointments. So if we're really trying to blow out our appointments to really max out the amount of appointments we think we should get, and we're really estimating that we might not have the best quality leads, so we might have to sift through as maybe only a third of our leads are actually good. Let's say then that that's as many as 900 leads. And you might thinking, oh wow, 900 leads, can I do that? Yeah, that's about 3 leads a day in a year. Can you get 3 leads a day? Definitely. Absolutely. You could go buy 3 leads a day from one of these services. You could go knock on doors. You could make phone calls. Will you need 3 leads a day? Probably not. Again, this is on the more extreme. Both of these here are extremes. Now, where this is going to be depends on your business. And again, until you actually have done some real estate transactions, until you could start to track this, and as soon as you're licensed, as soon as you start actually practicing real estate, start tracking this. Just keep a tally. Keep a tally of how many leads you have, how many appointments you're getting, and keep track of this on a daily basis. Review it on a weekly and monthly basis. This is really what the business plan is all about. Not just making the plan, but reviewing the plan. Going through this on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to make sure that you're on track to hit your goals. Because what you're going to find out is what your business actually does. You might find out you're really good at generating good quality leads, so you don't need as many leads. But maybe not as many of them want an appointment. Or again, maybe they are good quality leads, so we are getting more appointments out of them. But maybe despite them, and really again, if they're good quality leads, we should be pretty much across the board here. I mean, maybe the part where it switches of them being good quality leads that are ready, maybe there's some that fall through. But if these people are ready, willing, and highly motivated to buy or sell real estate, it's a lot less likely that the deal is going to fall through. It's more likely to fall through when people get more cold feet, because that's a big reason why people might want to back out of a deal, is because they're concerned. And that's something we could easily help them overcome by making sure that they're well informed of all the information that may be relevant at all to their buying decisions. But let's say that again, we've got good quality leads, but maybe they're a lower dollar amount. If you wait until 2022 starts rolling around to rerun these numbers and figure that out, you're probably not going to hit your income goal. But if you're reviewing this on a daily, a weekly, and a monthly basis, you're going to realize what course corrections you need to make to stay on track to hit your goal. And that's what's so important about business planning. It's not just something you do once, it's something that you do every single day, which is why we teach that in our post-licensing course. If you're new to real estate, post-licensing is the course you need to take to renew your real estate license for your first renewal, and you can take it as soon as you're licensed. And we recommend taking it as soon as you're licensed. The day you're licensed, you can come sign up for a post-licensing course with us. And I recommend doing that right away, because there's a lot of other things you're going to learn about that's going to help you grow your business, but the thing I think that's going to be the biggest impact for you, especially when you're brand new to real estate, is understanding this business planning and how to plan your business, because this will help you figure out what you need to do to achieve what you want to achieve from your real estate business. So get signed up for the post-licensing if you're not already. And if you are brand new to real estate, meaning you don't even have a real estate license yet, we actually have some really great bundle packages that include our post-licensing course with our pre-licensing course, and it'll save you a lot of money for pre-registering for that. So if you want to pre-register with one of those bundles, give us a call, 813-333-2676. We've got advisors standing by. We're still here today on Wednesday, December, what is it, the 23rd? Yeah, 23rd today. So this isn't a recording. We're live right here. We're here in person. We pick up the phone. We're here to help you. Whatever it is, give us a call, 813-333-2676. You can also check us out online at tampaschool.com. We've got a little chat box on there if you prefer to chat. You can also text us at that phone number, 813-333-2676. Again, that's 813-333-2676. Let us help you. We want to help you achieve whatever your dreams and goals are through real estate and help you get there in the easiest, most efficient way we know possible. So give us a call, 813-333-2676. It's about all the time we've got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a Merry Christmas. Have a Happy Holidays. We'll see you again before New Year's because we'll be back next week. That's all the time we've got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.
The most powerful tool to study for your real estate exam is the Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate. We've used our years of experience in preparing students for the Florida real estate exam to bring you the most powerful exam study tool available. In the Question Simulator, you'll be able to go directly to a particular unit so you can focus on the sections where you need the most practice. We have also included the percentages of each unit so you know which units are the most important for your real estate exam. Every question will immediately give you detailed feedback, which is almost always more important than the question or the answer themselves. After completing all the questions in a particular unit, you can go through question by question and review any that you've gotten wrong. You could also print out a report at the end of each quiz. The Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate is 100% mobile compatible, so you can practice with test questions anywhere you have your phone with you. Enroll now at questionsimulator.com and get ready to pass your exam.